It's a beautiful day to be out here, so peaceful.
Hello, I'm at the market now. Do you need anything?
The morning sky hung heavy with clouds, its gray folds hinting at rain. A restless wind swept across the narrow alley where Diep lived, tugging at the rusted tin sheets that served as the roof of her modest home. Drops of water began to fall, tapping against the window panes like an impatient visitor. Inside, the air was warmer, filled with the faint aroma of rice porridge simmering on the stove. Little Nee sat by the window, her thin arms wrapped around a faded stuffed bear that Diep had once bought at a small market stall. Her eyes were wide and curious as she watched the drizzle thicken, each raindrop racing down the glass like a silver thread. For months, this had been their rhythm. Diep waking early, hurrying to prepare breakfast, making sure Nai had clean clothes for school, and then rushing to her own work. In the evenings, she would pick Nai up, the two of them walking hand in hand through the dusty lanes. To outsiders, perhaps it looked like an ordinary life, but for Diep, every moment was precious. She had no children of her own, and from the first day Nai had been entrusted to her care, she had loved the girl as if she were born from her own blood. The legal process of guardianship had not been easy. Officers from the local ward had tried again and again to reach out to Nee's family, but no one had come forward. In the end, after weeks of paperwork and interviews, the documents had been finalized. It was official. Diep could raise Nai as her daughter, or so she had thought. That morning, as she ladled porridge into a small bowl, a knock echoed at the door. It was hesitant at first, then firmer. Diep wiped her hands on her apron and went to answer, her heart fluttering with an unshakable unease. On the doorstep stood an older woman, dressed in a plain blouse dampened by the misty rain. Her hair was streaked with silver, her eyes sharp but weary. The stranger's gaze went past Diep, searching the room, and when it landed on Nee, who peeked from behind the doorway, her lips trembled. "Are you Diep?" the woman asked, her voice low but steady. "Yes," Diep answered cautiously. "And you are?" "I'm Nee's grandmother." The words struck Diep like a blow. For a moment she couldn't breathe. The grandmother. After all this time, she stepped aside mechanically, inviting the woman in. They sat across from one another at the small wooden table. The kettle hissed softly on the stove. The woman, Nee's grandmother, didn't waste time. "I've come to take Nai home," she said simply. Diep's hands tightened around her teacup. "Take her home. With all respect, where were you all these months? When the officers searched for her family? When I signed the guardianship papers because no one claimed her?" A shadow crossed the woman's face. "We had urgent matters in the family, too important to leave unattended. At that time we couldn't come. But Nee is our blood. Do you understand the saying, different blood, different heart? No matter how much you love her, it isn't the same as family love. She belongs with us." Diep's throat burned. She wanted to scream, to insist that love was more than blood, that she had nursed Nai when she was sick, comforted her in the middle of the night, taught her to tie her shoelaces. But the woman's eyes were resolute, and in them Diep saw something undeniable. Lineage, roots, history that she could never replace. Still, she forced herself to speak calmly. "Madam, Nee has been with me for a long time. She calls me mother. I treat her like my own child. If you take her away so suddenly, it will wound her deeply. Please, let her stay with me a little longer." The grandmother shook her head. "The road to get here is long, nearly 100 kilometers. I cannot come back and forth. I've been here 3 days already. Today, I must bring her home." Diep's heart pounded. She turned to look at Nai, who sat quietly in the corner, clutching her bear, her eyes darting between the two women. The thought of those small hands slipping from hers was unbearable. "I beg you," Diep whispered, her voice trembling. "One more day. Just let me have one more day with her." The grandmother hesitated. She sipped her tea, her face unreadable. Then, after a long silence, she sighed. "One day. That's all I can give you. Tomorrow I will return, and she will come with me. You must understand, this is not cruelty. It is duty. Tears stung Diep's eyes. She lowered her head, hiding them. Thank you, she said softly, though gratitude was the last thing she felt. When the woman left, promising to return with papers, the house fell into silence. Nai shuffled over, tugging at Diep's sleeve. Mom, what did Grandma say? Am I going away? Diep knelt and hugged the girl tightly, pressing her face into her small shoulder. No matter what happens, she murmured, I love you. Always. Outside, the rain began to fall harder, drumming against the tin roof like the beating of a restless heart. The hours after Nai's grandmother left passed in a haze. Diep moved through the house like a shadow, her hands tidying objects that did not need tidying, her mind spinning in circles. Every corner of the small home carried traces of the life she had built with Nai. The crayons scattered across the table, the small shoes by the door, the school bag hanging neatly on its peg. Each detail whispered a single truth. This was Nai's home, their home, and yet tomorrow, all of it could be gone. Diep tried to steady herself. She had to be strong, at least for the little girl. Nai, sensing something was wrong, clung closer than usual, her chatter subdued. At one point, she pressed her bear into Diep's hands as though offering comfort, and Diep almost broke down then and there. That evening, after putting Nai to bed, Diep sat alone by the table. The rain had finally ceased, leaving behind a damp stillness. She stared at her phone, debating. There was one person she trusted enough to confide in. James. James was more than just an acquaintance. He was the man who had changed her life in quiet, unexpected ways. A CEO with a reputation for discipline and brilliance, he had nevertheless shown her a kindness that went beyond obligation. He supported her when she took Nai in, offering advice, sometimes financial help, always encouragement. Diep dialed his number, then hesitated. He was on a business trip, she remembered. Busy, far away, immersed in meetings and negotiations. What right did she have to burden him now? Her thumb hovered over the call button. For a moment, she almost pressed it, almost let the words spill out. Instead, she put the phone down. She would not distract him, not tonight. Far away in Haiduang, James was indeed busy. The city buzzed with energy as he met with partners, navigating the delicate dance of business. That day, he was giving a tour of his company's textile factory, a facility he took great pride in. The vast hall stretched before them, filled with the hum of machinery. Rolls of fabric gleamed under the fluorescent lights, their textures smooth and refined. James guided his guests, a potential investor named Trang and his team, through each section, explaining the processes with the precision of someone who knew every detail by heart. Our fabric is designed for both durability and comfort, James explained, holding up a bolt of cloth. It's particularly suited for suits, cool enough for Vietnam's climate, but still formal, elegant. We've tested it extensively. It doesn't irritate the skin, and we offer a 5-year guarantee against fading. Trang ran his fingers over the fabric, visibly impressed. Remarkable. Most suits I own become unbearable in summer, but this feels breathable, lightweight, perfect for formal wear. James nodded. That balance is what we strive for, luxury that adapts to real needs. They continued down the line, stopping to watch workers cut and inspect pieces with meticulous care. We aim for international standards, James added. Every roll is checked before it leaves. Our production may not be the largest, but it is among the most consistent. By the time they reached the conference room, the mood was optimistic. Trang leaned back in his chair, smiling. I've seen enough. The quality is undeniable, and the production process speaks for itself. I'm ready to invest. James felt a weight lift from his chest. I'm glad to hear that. Shall we draft the contract? Within moments, his secretary brought in the papers. Pens scratched across pages, sealing the partnership. To James, it was more than just business. Each contract meant stability, growth, not just for himself, but for the people who depended on the company. And though he did not say it aloud, each success was also for Diep and Nai. He wanted to build something solid enough that they would never have to struggle the way they once had. Back at home, Diep and Nai shared a quiet dinner. Diep had taken Nai to a small food stall, hoping the outing might lighten the heaviness in her chest. They sat side by side at the table, steam rising from bowls of noodles. "Nai," Diep asked gently, "are you happy living with me?" The girl looked up, chopsticks paused midair. "Yes, very happy. You buy me clothes. You take me to school. You cook yummy food." She grinned, her missing tooth making the smile even sweeter. Diep forced herself to smile back, though her throat tightened. "And if one day you had to live with your grandmother, would you want that?" The joy in Nai's eyes dimmed. She shook her head fiercely. "No, I want to stay with you. Only you." The words pierced Diep's heart. She reached over and brushed a strand of hair from Nai's forehead. "I'm glad," she whispered, hiding the tears that threatened to spill. "Me too." They finished their meal in silence, each lost in thought. Nai slurped her noodles, oblivious to the storm that brewed beyond her understanding. Diep watched her, memorizing every gesture, every sound, as though afraid it might be the last time. Later that night, as Nai drifted to sleep, Diep sat awake by the window. The moon broke through the clouds, casting a pale glow across the courtyard. Tomorrow, Nai's grandmother would return. Tomorrow, everything could change. Diep pressed her palms together, as if in prayer. "Please," she whispered to the night, "don't take her from me." The next morning dawned bright. The storm swept away, leaving the air unusually clear. Birds sang on the telephone wires, oblivious to the storm brewing inside Diep's heart. She rose early, preparing breakfast with slow, deliberate movements. Each slice of bread, each stir of the spoon carried a heaviness, as though prolonging these simple tasks could somehow delay the inevitable. Nai bounded into the kitchen, her school uniform a little crumpled, her hair tied into 2 uneven braids. She grinned up at Diep. "Mom, today the teacher says we'll sing songs. I'll sing extra loud so you can hear me from here." Diep laughed softly, though it caught in her throat. "I wish I could, but promise me you'll sing with all your heart, okay?" Nai nodded, her face bright with innocence. To her, the world was still simple, safe. Diep envied that purity. As they walked to school, the streets glistened with rainwater. Motorbikes whizzed by, splashing through puddles. Diep held Nai's hand tightly, unwilling to let go even at the school gate. The teacher smiled and gently coaxed Nai inside. But Diep lingered, watching until the little girl disappeared into the classroom. She turned for home, the emptiness pressing down heavier than ever. By noon, Nai's grandmother returned. This time she carried a small folder of documents, neatly stacked and bound with a red ribbon. Proof, she called it. Proof of blood ties, of lineage, of rightful claim. She sat once again at Diep's table, her face calm but unyielding. "I kept my word," she said. "I gave you one day. Now it is time." Diep's fingers dug into the edge of the chair. "Please," she whispered. "She's not ready. She'll be frightened. Can't you see how happy she is here?" The woman's eyes softened, just slightly. "I don't deny the care you've given. For that, I'm grateful. But family must be with family. If I let her stay longer, the bond between you will only deepen. Then the pain will be greater when she leaves." The words cut deep, because Diep knew they were true. And yet, how could she willingly let go? Every instinct in her screamed to fight, to hold Nai close and never release her. At that moment, the front door burst open and Nai ran in, her school bag bouncing on her back. She froze when she saw her grandmother seated inside. Her eyes darted to Diep, then back to the older woman. "Grandma?" she asked timidly. The woman opened her arms. "Yes, child, it's me. Come, we're going home." Nai hesitated, her small face crumpling. She ran to Diep instead, burying her face against her waist. "I don't want to go. I want to stay with you." Diep's arms wrapped around her automatically, tears spilling at last. She stroked the girl's hair, whispering soothingly, though her own heart was breaking. "It's okay, my love. Whatever happens, remember, you are loved. Always." The grandmother rose slowly, watching them. She did not shout or pull Nai away. She simply waited, patient as stone. Finally, Diep lifted her gaze, meeting the woman's eyes. In them, she saw no cruelty, only determination forged by blood and duty. Perhaps in another life, they might have stood side by side, raising Nai together. But this was not that life. Please, Diep said one last time, her voice hoarse. Let me keep her. The woman shook her head gently. This is goodbye. Meanwhile, miles away, James was oblivious. His meetings continued late into the evening, filled with contracts, handshakes, and polite laughter. He felt a flicker of unease now and then, as though something important was happening far away, but he pushed it aside. He told himself he would call Diep tomorrow, check on her, perhaps bring gifts for Nai when he returned. He did not know tomorrow would be too late. That night, after Nai had been led away, the house was silent. Diep sat in the darkness, the stuffed bear still on the chair where Nai had left it. She clutched it to her chest, rocking slightly, the emptiness deafening. Every corner of the room seemed colder, every shadow deeper. She thought of James, of his promises, of the life she had begun to hope for. She thought of Nai's laughter, her small hands in hers, and she thought of the word, goodbye, final and sharp, slicing her world in two. For the first time in many months, Diep felt utterly alone. Outside, the moon rose over the rooftops, indifferent to human sorrow. Inside, a single woman whispered into the darkness, "Come back to me, Nai. Please." The night carried her words away, unanswered.